The night was silent, except for the faint hum of the instruments inside the National Astronomical Research Facility. Outside, the world slept under a star-studded sky, unaware of the anomaly unfolding in the heavens. Dr. Evan Holt, senior lunar scientist, sat hunched over the lunar deep-focus microscope, a machine capable of magnifying the moon's surface as if he were holding it in his hands. Every crater, ridge, and shadow was rendered in precise detail. Holt had been observing the moon for hours, looking for subtle shifts in surface patterns. Then, as if the universe itself had decided to intervene, a small point of light appeared on his screen. At first, he thought it was a reflection, an optical glitch. But as he adjusted the focus, his heart skipped a beat. The light was moving, not across the moon, but from the moon toward Earth. It traveled at a speed that made no sense. Faster than any satellite, faster than any meteor. Yet it wasn't random. It had purpose. Its trajectory was deliberate, calculated, and unmistakably aimed at the northern hemisphere. Holt's hands shook as he tapped the coordinates into the secure phone. His mind raced. There was only one person who could make sense of this: James Bond. Bond. His voice trembled. "I'm listening," came the calm, measured reply. Bond's voice betrayed nothing, yet his mind was already calculating scenarios: satellite failure, clandestine weapons, or something far more advanced. It's coming toward Earth," Holt stammered. "Extremely fast, heading north. I don't understand it. I can't explain it." Bond didn't interrupt. He let the scientist speak, noting every detail. Coordinates, speed, trajectory, odd patterns in the beam. Holt's observations were precise, yet frightening. "Stay where you are," Bond instructed finally. "I'll check it out myself." Bond's car cut through the cold night air, headlights piercing the darkness of snow-laden mountain roads. The GPS coordinates led him into an isolated stretch of wilderness. Stopping at the edge of the clearing, Bond killed the headlights. The air was crisp, almost biting, and the silence was complete. He stepped out, letting his eyes adjust. No disturbance. No scorch marks. The forest floor was untouched. Deploying his tools with practiced precision, Bond began a systematic search. Thermal scanners swept the area for unusual heat signatures. Infrared cameras scanned the treetops and rocky terrain. Ground resonance probes measured vibrations that might indicate recent movement. Miniature drones hovered silently, sending live feeds to Bond's handheld monitor. For over an hour, Bond combed the area meticulously. He moved between trees, over rocks, along ridges. He checked every conceivable hiding spot, every small indentation in the snow. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Bond returned to his vehicle, silent but tense. The forest was now a dark, silent witness. He drove back to his flat, the road empty, the night still. Once inside, he removed his coat and brewed coffee. Sitting down at his workbench, he began research. Journals on experimental propulsion. Space observation papers. Recent satellite launch data. Rare astronomical publications. Every reference, every theory he could find, Bond reviewed with meticulous attention. Each could hold a clue to what Holt had observed. Time passed. The night deepened. Bond remained focused, analyzing, calculating, cross-referencing, and noting patterns. His mind circled around one possibility. Whatever Holt had seen was not of ordinary origin. The beam from the moon, its speed, the precision, it defied everything he knew. And yet, Bond sensed the significance. This was only the beginning. Far beyond Earth's atmosphere, beyond satellites, beyond human reach, there existed a structure that did not orbit by chance. It was called Aether Bastion. From a distance, it appeared like a floating metropolis carved out of light and alloy. Massive towers rose from a central core, interconnected by translucent sky bridges. Energy flowed visibly through vein-like conduits along its surface, pulsing slowly, rhythmically, like the heartbeat of a living organism. Aether Bastion was not a station. It was a city. A city suspended in space, hidden from every known telescope, shielded by quantum distortion fields that bent light, radiation, and even probability itself. This was the heart of quantum dominion. Deep inside Aether Bastion, within one of its highest spires, two figures sat in silence. One was a man, the other, a woman. Both appeared human, but only at first glance. The man, tall and lean, wore a dark uniform woven with faintly glowing lines that shifted as he moved. His eyes were sharp, analytical. His name was Kale. The woman sat opposite him, calm and composed, her silver-toned uniform reflecting the soft ambient light of the chamber. Her movements were precise, economical. Her name was Rin. Between them hovered a semi-transparent holographic table, currently dormant. Neither spoke. Then, the air changed. The ambient hum of the chamber dropped by several frequencies. Light dimmed imperceptibly. The holographic table activated on its own. Both agents stood instantly. They did not look toward the source. They never did. A presence filled the chamber, not physical, not fully visible. A silhouette formed in the air above the table. Tall, broad-shouldered. Its edges flickered as if reality itself refused to define it clearly. No face. No identifiable features. Only a faint insignia pulsing where a chest would be. The Supreme Commander. No one in Quantum Dominion had ever seen him in full form. No one had ever stood in his presence physically. No one knew where he truly resided within Aether Bastion. Some believed he was not even fully biological. What was known was this: he had never been wrong. Agents, the voice said. It was calm, controlled, genderless in tone, yet authoritative enough to silence thought itself. Kale and Rin lowered their heads slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. You have been selected for an external operation, the Supreme Commander continued. Destination, Earth. The holographic table erupted into motion. A three-dimensional model of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. A glowing trajectory line extended from the moon toward the planet's northern hemisphere. A terrestrial scientist, the commander said, has observed a transit anomaly originating from this location. The moon highlighted. He must be retrieved. Discreetly. Rin's eyes narrowed slightly. Risk assessment. Minimal, the commander replied, provided protocol is followed. Kale spoke for the first time. Interference probability. A pause, brief, but deliberate. There is an observer, the Supreme Commander said. An individual of elevated capability. The hologram shifted, withholding detail. You are to ensure he remains unaware. Kale and Rin exchanged a glance. Understood. As the briefing continued, the walls of the chamber became transparent, revealing the vastness of Quantum Dominion. Aether Bastion extended in all directions: residential sectors, research spires, energy reactors, and ship bays, each operating in seamless harmony. Autonomous transports glided silently through the city. Artificial gravity fields maintained perfect equilibrium. Quantum Dominion was not a civilization driven by conquest. It was driven by control through knowledge. They observed emerging worlds. They catalogued intelligence. They intervened only when necessary. Earth, until now, had been insignificant. Until the anomaly. You will descend using a figraph, the Supreme Commander said. At the mention of the name, the hologram shifted again. The figraph, a compact, angular craft, appeared. Its surface was layered with adaptive camouflage plating, capable of mimicking cosmic radiation, atmospheric noise, or visual darkness. It will leave no detectable trace, the commander continued. You will land. You will observe. You will retrieve the scientist. Then you will return. Rin nodded. And the craft. The figraph will be recalled immediately after deployment, the commander replied. No evidence must remain. Kale's jaw tightened slightly. Understood. The hologram began to dissolve. One final directive, the Supreme Commander said, his voice lowering. This mission must not attract attention, especially his. The presence vanished. The chamber's ambient hum returned. Minutes later, Kale and Rin stood inside the figraph's interior bay. The craft was seamless inside, no visible seams, no traditional controls. Instead, the walls responded to thought and gesture. As the craft disengaged from Aether Bastion, space itself seemed to fold around it. No flame, no sound, no acceleration shock. Just silence. Earth grew larger. Atmosphere embraced the craft without friction, its surface bending light to remain unseen. Within seconds, the figraph slowed, hovering above the northern mountains. Deploy, Kale said. The craft released them, not by opening a hatch, but by phasing them through its hull. They descended. Soft. Controlled. Precise. Their boots touched snow-covered ground. Immediately, the figraph began to rise. Within seconds, it vanished, pulled back toward orbit, leaving nothing behind. No scorch marks. No sound. No evidence. Kale and Rin reached the nearby city by ground transport, blending effortlessly into the night. Human clothing concealed their technology. To any observer, they were nothing more than travelers. They checked into a modest hotel. 2 rooms. No unnecessary interaction. Inside his room, Kale removed his outer jacket, revealing a compact interface embedded into his wrist. Rin mirrored the action in her room. We rest, Rin said calmly over a private channel. Then we begin the trace. Kale looked toward the window, where Earth's sky stretched endlessly. Earth thinks it is alone, he replied. It always does. The lights dimmed automatically. And somewhere below, completely unaware, the hunt was about to begin. The morning was unusually still, the kind of silence that makes every footstep sound amplified. Bond's secure phone buzzed insistently on his desk. Bond. The voice on the line was tense. Not a voice he recognized, but it carried authority. Lab, attack, it said. Holt's facility, breach. Security systems down. Unknown assailants. Proceed with caution. Bond's jaw tightened. The northern mountains, the moon's mysterious light, and now a breach. Everything was escalating faster than he had anticipated. Without hesitation, Bond grabbed his coat and headed out. The laboratory was in lockdown, surrounded by emergency perimeter lights and a faint haze from smoke suppression systems. Bond surveyed the area silently. Broken glass, scorch marks along the entrance, security drones lying deactivated. It was clear this had been a precise operation, not a random intrusion. He moved inside carefully, checking each corridor, each laboratory bay. Amidst the wreckage, one small metallic object caught his eye, shimmering faintly under the fluorescent emergency lights. It was the badge. Metallic, light, engraved AB. Corner marked Number 1. A tiny geometric etchings that pulsed faintly. Bond immediately recognized it as something more than a simple object. It hummed faintly, as if alive, almost like it was calling out. He pulled out a portable scanner from his coat. Bond ran a quick spectral and electromagnetic analysis, confirming his instincts. Oh, the badge was active. It emitted a subtle signal, quantum-linked, possibly orbital. It could be a beacon, a communicator, or a tracking device. Satisfied with the preliminary scan, Bond carefully secured it in a lead-lined case. The real work would be done at his headquarters, where advanced laboratories awaited. Bond's drive was silent. The snow-laden roads of the northern mountains passed in a blur. His mind was already calculating. Oh, the badge's origin. Possible links to the moon anomaly. The attacker's sophistication. Upon arrival at headquarters, Bond was recognized instantly by retinal scan and encrypted voice protocols. Only he knew the true authority of this place. Inside, Bond made his way to a private secure lab. There he was greeted, though not in person, by Zyron, the demi-chief. Unknown to everyone else, Zyron controlled all operations from the shadows. No staff, scientist or agent had ever seen him in full form. Only Bond had direct access and communication. Bond, Zyron's voice came, calm and measured, from the holographic interface. Badge secured. Bond placed the device on the analysis table. Yes. Preliminary scans confirm it's far beyond current Earth technology. Signals may be orbital linked, possibly connected to a FIGRAPH or similar craft. Understood, Zyron said. Proceed carefully. Full analysis will be done here. I want you to coordinate all steps. No one else must know about this device. Bond nodded. He had known Zyron long enough to understand. All operations, all communications, every decision, flowed through him. Yet, the chief remained unseen, controlling everything remotely. Bond set up the badge in a dedicated analysis bay. Multi-spectrum light scanners. Quantum signal detectors. Nanosurface resonance monitors. The device pulsed faintly, almost alive. As Bond ran the sequences, holographic readings revealed patterns corresponding to orbital vectors, possible ground coordinates, and advanced energy signatures. Zyron observed silently through encrypted channels, guiding Bond without being seen. Focus on energy resonance, he instructed. Map every vector. Bond worked meticulously. He realized the badge was more than a key. It was a beacon, a communicator, and possibly a control device. Earth was under surveillance, and whoever created this technology was operating well beyond conventional intelligence reach. The city was still asleep when Cale opened his eyes. The hotel room was dark, curtains drawn, soundproofing active. For a moment, he lay motionless, listening, not to the city, but to the faint signals running through his neural interface. Beside him, in the adjoining room, Rin was already awake. System stable, her voice came through the private channel. No terrestrial detection. Cale rose, dressed, and activated the portable case resting near the wall. Inside it lay the heart of their operation. Cale unfolded the device with careful precision. Oracle 9 was not a computer in the human sense. It was a quantum trace engine, no larger than a briefcase, powered by compressed dark energy cells. As it powered on, its surface dissolved into floating geometric layers. Functions of Oracle 9. Tracks residual quantum disturbances. Reads space-to-ground transition signatures. Detects interaction between advanced tech and human infrastructure. Maps neural and electromagnetic footprints of a target. Rin placed a small crystalline module, retrieved from the badge's signal residue, into the core slot. "Initiating trace," she said. The room filled with soft harmonic vibrations. A three-dimensional hologram formed. A laboratory appeared. Coordinates locked. Target identified. "The scientist," Kale said quietly. "He survived the first contact." "Barely," Rin replied. "But he's active. They're protecting him." Kale closed the case. "Then we move." They did not use vehicles. From the hotel's rooftop, Kale activated a phase veil cloak. Their outlines blurred, bending light, sound, and infrared signatures. To the world below, the air was empty. They moved through the city like ghosts. Security cameras did not register them. Motion sensors remained blind. Even electronic noise flattened around their presence. Within minutes, the laboratory complex rose before them. Lights on. Guards present. Defenses active. Irrelevant. Rin knelt near the outer wall and pressed her palm against the concrete. Her glove shifted, revealing a neural lock spike, a thin, glowing filament that slid into the structure. "Structural scan complete," she said. "There's a service tunnel beneath the east wing." The wall shimmered. Not broken, phased. A hidden route opened where no door existed. They slipped inside. The wall resolidified behind them. No alarms. No damage. No trace. As they moved through the corridor, both agents armed themselves. Kale carried the Vortex 7 suppressor. Fires compressed gravimetric pulses. Causes instant neural shutdown. Leaves no external wounds. Victims collapse silently. Rin wielded the Spectre Blade. Molecular edge weapon. Cuts through armor, locks, or reinforced glass. Emits no heat, no sound. A guard stepped into the corridor. Kale raised the Vortex 7. A faint pulse. The guard dropped, unconscious before his body hit the floor. Rin caught him, lowering him silently. "No fatalities," she said. "Commander's directive." They moved on. The inner lab was sealed. Glass walls. Biosecurity locks. Emergency override systems. Rin extended the Spectre Blade and drew a perfect circle on the glass. The cut sealed behind itself as the glass parted. Inside, the scientist stood frozen. Eyes wide. Breathing fast. He opened his mouth. Kale was already there. A device pressed gently against the scientist's neck. The neurocommer activated. A soft blue glow. The man's muscles relaxed. His eyes lost focus. He collapsed into Kale's arms, alive, unharmed, unconscious. Rin scanned the room. "Extraction complete," she said. "But we've been noticed." Distant alarms began to rise. Too late. Kale activated a small sphere and rolled it across the floor. The NULL field ORB expanded instantly. Signals died. Cameras went blind. Tracking systems returned noise instead of data. Every trace of their presence dissolved. They exited through the same hidden route, carrying the scientist between them. Outside, the night swallowed them whole. They moved fast, on foot, through terrain humans would struggle to cross. Snow, rock, wind. The scientist remained unconscious, breathing steadily. As they reached the mountain ridge, Rin activated a beacon visible only in quantum spectrum. Figraph recall initiated. The air vibrated. Reality bent. The Figraph descended without sound, emerging from nothing. The ground never touched its hull. A hatch phased open. They stepped inside. The craft lifted instantly, vanishing into the sky. Below them, the mountains returned to silence. No footprints. No evidence. No witnesses. Earth remained unaware. The underground laboratory was silent, too silent for a place that housed the most advanced minds of the nation. James Bond stood alone at the center of the circular analysis chamber, the lights dimmed to a cold blue. Before him, suspended in a magnetic field, hovered the object recovered from the attacked laboratory. The badge. It looked simple at first glance, oval, metallic, no thicker than a coin. But Bond knew better. Nothing about it felt human. The surface shimmered with a dull sheen, refusing to reflect light properly, as if it absorbed part of reality itself. No scratches. No fingerprints. No signs of wear. On its lower edge were engraved 3 markings. A.B. Number 1. And an unfamiliar sigil, angular, precise, unsettling. Bond folded his arms. "This isn't a badge," he muttered. "It's a key." A soft mechanical hum echoed as a hidden door slid open behind him. Bond didn't turn. Only one man entered the lab without announcing himself. Only one man existed whose presence never appeared on any database, any record, any photograph. "Your instincts are correct," said the calm voice. Bond turned. The man stood tall, dressed simply, his face unremarkable by design, forgettable, engineered that way. But his eyes had seen wars before they happened. "Zyron," Bond said quietly. The man inclined his head. To the world, he was known only as Chief Control, a myth, a relay authority, a faceless directive node. But Bond knew the truth. Zyron Vale, the real commander of the intelligence network. The man who never existed. Only Bond was allowed to use his real name, and only when alone. "You were right to bring it directly here," Zyron said. "This object does not belong to Earth." Bond gestured to the badge. "I found it beneath the main console of the attacked lab. Whoever took the scientist didn't mean to leave it behind." "They didn't," Zyron replied. "They lost it." That made Bond's jaw tighten. Bond activated the lab's core system. Beams of light scanned the badge, optical, thermal, electromagnetic. Nothing registered normally. Zyron watched silently. "The alloy isn't listed on the periodic table," Bond said. "No molecular decay. No isotopic signature. It's stable beyond physics." He paused. "And it's transmitting." Zyron's eyes sharpened. "Transmitting where?" Bond tapped a control. The room darkened. A 3-dimensional projection bloomed into existence. A signal arc. Not horizontal. Vertical. Straight up. "Space," Bond finished. Silence followed. Then Zyron spoke carefully. "This badge is not identification. It's a locator. A recall beacon." Bond nodded slowly. "Which means the light the scientist saw through his lunar microscope wasn't a meteor." "It was a vehicle," Zyron said. "One designed to enter and exit Earth without detection." Bond straightened. "And whoever abducted our scientist has already left the planet." Zyron folded his hands behind his back. "Not yet." Bond looked at him sharply. Zyron pointed at the projection. "The signal is incomplete. Something interrupted their extraction cycle." Bond's eyes dropped to the floating badge. "They lost this." "Yes," Zyron said. "And without it, their return protocol is unstable." A thin smile crossed Bond's face. So they'll have to come back for it. Zyron turned toward the wall. It came alive with tactical overlays. Satellite distortion recorded above the northern mountains, he said. Residual quantum turbulence detected. Bond stepped forward. That's where they entered. And where they will attempt re-entry, Zyron confirmed. Bond didn't hesitate. Call the team. Zyron raised his hand. 4 names appeared on the screen. Each one classified beyond clearance. Each one lethal in their own way. They're already mobilizing, Zyron said. You will lead. Bond reached for the badge. The magnetic field disengaged. The object settled into his palm, cold, heavier than it should be. Any advice? Bond asked. Zyron met his gaze. Yes, he said quietly. Do not assume they think like us. And do not assume they are human. Bond slipped the badge into a shielded case. I never do. Minutes later, Bond descended deeper into the headquarters, past levels known only to myths. The hangar doors parted silently. Before him stood a craft unlike any aircraft ever flown. Black. Angular. Alive with faint blue lines pulsing beneath its skin. Bond stopped for a moment. Still flying this relic? He asked. Zyron's voice came through the intercom. It's faster than anything they have, he replied. And invisible to everything they trust. Bond climbed aboard. The cockpit sealed. Systems awakened. Outside, the hangar ceiling began to open, not upward, but phasing out of existence. Bond strapped in. He placed the badge into a dedicated slot near the navigation console. The craft reacted instantly. Coordinates formed. Not on Earth. Bond's eyes narrowed. So that's where you're hiding, he whispered. The engines powered up. Not with a roar, but with silence. The stars above began to distort. Space itself seemed to bend. Bond gripped the controls. This is James Bond, he said calmly. Beginning off-world transfer. The craft vanished. Earth was left behind. The figraph sealed behind them without a sound. Inside the craft, the abducted scientist lay restrained but unharmed, neural suppressors keeping him unconscious. Kale stood near the observation pane, watching Earth shrink into a distant blue curve. Rin checked her interface. Then froze. Her eyes narrowed. She checked again. Then once more. Kale, she said carefully. Yes. The badge. Kale turned. What about it? Rin swallowed. It's not in my possession. Silence fell inside the figraph. Kale moved instantly, opening his equipment compartment, scanning every slot, every seal, every containment field. Empty. The color drained from his face. That's not possible, he said. Rin's fingers moved rapidly across her console. No recall signal. No proximity resonance. It's gone. Kale closed his eyes for a brief second. The badge was not merely equipment. It was authorization. It was identity. It was survival. We don't have time, he said sharply. Use the secondary badge. Rin hesitated. That will log an unscheduled extraction. Kale's jaw tightened. Then log it. Rin removed a second badge from a concealed compartment. It was identical, except for one marking. A.B, number 2. She activated it. The figraph responded instantly. Space folded. Ether currents surged. The craft accelerated beyond conventional physics, piercing a veil unseen by any human instrument. Earth vanished. Moments later, Aether Bastion emerged. It was not a station. It was a city. Suspended within a translucent energy lattice, Aether Bastion hovered in the void like a living organism. Vast towers interconnected by glowing conduits, platforms rotating in silent harmony. No thrusters. No exhaust. It existed by bending space around itself. The Figraph slid into a receiving corridor that closed seamlessly behind it. Kale exhaled slowly. They had returned. But something was wrong. They did not go to their quarters. They went directly to the communication chamber. The room darkened as a single sigil ignited in the air. A presence filled the space. Not a body. Not a face. Only a shape, tall, indistinct, concealed within shifting shadows. The Supreme Commander. No one had ever seen him clearly. No one had ever stood close to him. And no one had ever disobeyed him. "You have returned," the voice said, layered, calm, absolute. "Report." Kale stepped forward. "Mission success," he said evenly. "The scientist is secured." A pause. "And detection?" "No confirmed exposure," Rin added quickly. "Earth defenses remain unaware." The Supreme Commander tilted his head slightly. "You are certain?" "Yes, Commander," Kale said. He did not mention the badge. Neither did Rin. The silence stretched. Then, "Good," the Supreme Commander said. "The scientist will be transferred to Quantum Dominion within 1 week." A holographic seal formed. Until then, he remains under maximum isolation. "Yes, Commander," both agents said in unison. The presence faded. The chamber returned to darkness. Only when the doors sealed shut did Kale speak again. "We can't hide this forever." Rin nodded. "If the commander learns we lost an A.B unit." "He won't," Kale interrupted. "Because we're going back." Rin looked at him. "To Earth." "To retrieve the badge," he said. "Before anyone realizes what it truly is." They stood in silence, both calculating outcomes. Punishment for failure in Quantum Dominion was not death. It was worse. Suddenly, the Bastion's internal warning tone activated. Low. Urgent. Rin turned sharply to the console. "This can't be right." Kale stepped closer. "What is it?" "A Figraph," she said slowly. "Unauthorized recall." Kale's blood ran cold. "From where?" Rin looked up. "Earth." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kale whispered, "But we didn't authorize it." Rin's fingers flew across the interface. "Trajectory analysis shows it's inbound." Her eyes widened. "And it's using an A.B signal." The lost badge. Kale clenched his fists. "Someone found it." "And someone activated it," Rin added. Kale's voice dropped to a lethal calm. "Prepare interception." "You mean?" "Anyone who arrives on that Figraph," he said, "does not leave alive." The Bastion's defenses awakened. Energy lattices shifted. Weapons systems armed. Somewhere in the void, a Figraph was coming home, carrying something that did not belong there. The transition was nothing like flight. Space did not rush past them. It folded. James Bond stood at the center of the Figraph's command bay as the craft slipped through layers of reality. The stars outside twisted into elongated arcs, then dissolved into a deep, luminous void. Around him stood the 4 operatives Zyron had summoned, each one chosen for a mission no human had officially ever flown. Bond turned slowly, his gaze sharp, assessing. Listen carefully, he said. Once we cross the threshold, Earth rules no longer apply. Bond gestured to his left. This is Commander Elias Kane, tactical strategist, former orbital warfare lead. Kane nodded once. Calm. Calculated. To my right, Dr. Mira Voss, Bond continued. Quantum systems expert. She keeps us invisible, or dead. Mira adjusted her wrist console, eyes already studying energy fluctuations outside the hull. At the rear, Rook Calder, Bond said. Close quarters combat. If it comes to blood, he finishes it. Rook cracked his neck, grinning slightly. And finally, Nix Hale, Bond finished. Infiltration and electronic warfare. If something locks, she opens it. Nix gave a half salute. Bond faced them fully. Our target is not conquest. It's extraction and intelligence. He paused. And survival. Bond opened a reinforced case secured to the floor. Inside lay devices that looked harmless, almost primitive. But nothing Bond built ever was. He lifted the first. A matte black wrist blade. This cuts through energy shields and molecular alloys, Bond said. Silent. Limited to 30 strikes before recharge. He handed it to Rook. Next. 4 coin-sized discs. These activate localized invisibility for 12 seconds, Bond said. Movement only. No running. No firing. He distributed them. Then. Small cylinders with blue cores. These cancel gravity within a 10-meter radius, Bond explained. Use them to escape, not to fight. Mira nodded sharply. Finally, Bond removed a sleek sidearm. Transparent chamber. Liquid energy swirling inside. Non-lethal, Bond said. Neural disruption. One shot drops them for 5 minutes. He holstered his own. Questions? Nix raised an eyebrow. What happens if they're not human? Bond met her eyes. Then we improvise. The Figraph shuddered. Warning tones pulsed softly. Mira looked up. We've been detected, she said. Defense grids aligning. The Bastion appeared ahead. Massive. Impossible. A city suspended in darkness, wrapped in glowing geometric lattices, its towers stretching like blades toward infinity. Kane exhaled slowly. That's not a station, he said. That's a fortress. Bond moved to the control panel and slid the A.B badge into its slot. The Figraph reacted violently. Energy spikes surged. Trap confirmed, Mira shouted. They're pulling us into a controlled corridor. Bond slammed a switch. Nix, override now. Nix's fingers danced. Firewall breached. Wait. Counterlock. The Figraph lurched. Alarms blared. Outside, energy nets began forming, closing. Bond's voice cut through the chaos. Prepare for manual exit. Rook stared. You mean, jump? Bond's mouth tightened. I mean survive. Bond activated the GRAVNULL charge and hurled it forward. The space ahead collapsed into weightlessness. Now. The Figraph twisted violently, slipping through the collapsing net. A beam grazed the hull. The craft spun. Bond hit the release. The team was thrown into open space. Then, the Bastion's gravity seized them. They crashed hard onto a metallic platform, rolling behind angular structures as energy fire scorched the surface above them. Bond was on his feet instantly. Move, he ordered. They sprinted. Nyx deployed a spectral veil. The world bent around them. Enemy drones swept overhead, missing them by meters. They dove through a narrow opening as the veil collapsed. Inside, a vast, dim structure. Tall walls pulsing faintly with alien symbols. No alarms. No lights. Just a low, ominous hum. Bond raised his lucent 9. "Hold positions," he whispered. Kane scanned the entrance. "They'll find us." "Yes," Bond replied. "But not on their terms." He looked around. "This building, power conduits, shielded walls," Mira said quietly. "It's a control annex." Bond allowed himself a thin smile. "Then we chose well." Outside, distant energy signatures converged. The hunt had begun. Inside the Bastion, James Bond was already planning his counterstrike. They had been waiting. Kale and Rin stood inside the Bastion's outer interception ring, watching the tactical projections unfold in real time. The incoming figgraph had already been marked, its trajectory predicted, its corridor prepared. Nothing entered Aether Bastion without permission. Nothing escaped once caught. "Kill zone alignment complete," Rin said calmly. "Energy nets armed. Suppression drones deployed." Kale folded his arms. "Whoever they are," he said, "they die before touching Bastion ground." The projection flared. The figgraph appeared, distorted, unstable, already resisting the corridor's pull. Kale frowned. "They're fighting the recall," he muttered. "No human craft should be able to do that," Rin replied. Then it happened. A sudden energy collapse rippled across the net. "Impossible!" Rin snapped, fingers flying across the console. A localized gravity failure bloomed inside the kill corridor. "They deployed a null field," she said sharply. "That technology shouldn't exist on Earth." Kale leaned forward. The figgraph twisted violently, scraping past the collapsing lattice. "Fire!" he ordered. Energy beams lanced out. One struck the craft's flank. Not enough. The hull split. Multiple heat signatures ejected. Targets exiting manually. Rin shouted. "They're alive. How are they alive?" Kale's eyes narrowed. "They planned this." Drones surged forward, flooding the lower platforms. Kale and Rin moved, fast, controlled, activating their phase gear and descending toward the impact zone. They saw the intruders only briefly. Shadows slipping between structures. Distortions in the air. Movements too disciplined to be random. Visual confirmation? Kale demanded. "Negative," Rin replied. "But they're not panicking." That disturbed Kale more than anything. Prey always panicked. They cornered the intruders near a transit platform. Kale deployed a containment field. It collapsed. Rin launched a suppression pulse. It dissipated mid-air, as if something cut through the energy itself. "What weapons are they using?" Rin demanded. Kale didn't answer. He was watching the aftermath. 2 drones lay disabled, not destroyed, precisely neutralized. No excessive force. No wasted motion. "These aren't raiders," he said slowly. "They're trained." A sudden gravity surged through Kale backward. He recovered instantly, weapon raised. But the targets were gone. By the time Kale and Rin reached the structure's interior threshold, it was too late. The intruders vanished into one of the Bastion's auxiliary buildings, an old control annex. Shields sealed behind them. Internal sensors went dark. Rin stared at the readouts. "They knew where to run," she said. That building blocks half our surveillance. Kale clenched his jaw. They weren't guessing. Minutes later, Kale and Rin stood inside their command sector. Holographic replays hovered around them, fragmented, incomplete, humiliating. Rin broke the silence. We failed to eliminate them. Kale nodded grimly. And they breached the bastion. That had never happened before. Ever. They came from Earth, Rin said slowly. But Earth shouldn't have this level of capability. Kale turned away, staring into the void beyond the bastion's shields. Which means one of two things, he said. Rin waited. Either Earth has evolved faster than we calculated, Kale continued, or someone has been preparing for us, for a long time. Rin's voice dropped. And they used weapons that can counter ours. Kale turned back. That makes them more dangerous than any army. A pause. Who do you think they are? Rin asked. Kale shook his head. I don't know. Then, after a moment. But whoever they are, they're not here by accident. This was only the beginning. Wait for part 2.